Thank you so much for having me here today. I struggled to get writing, and when I did, I went on and on. So bear with me as my story is a little long. I hope you do enjoy it. Here we go. It's titled A Place for All, a Home for Me. As I pushed open the big gray door and walked up the stairs for the gazillionth time, I paused and thought about the very first time that I had stepped into this beautiful building. It was the summer of 2011, and we had come here to take a tour of a school we were considering for kindergarten for our older son. At that time, I had absolutely no idea how much U Heights would come to mean to me over the next few years. I stepped into my office, opened the blinds, hung my coat, and walked to the kitchen to place the lunchbox into the fridge. I opened the freezer and got out a tray of ice cubes and walked over to the plants to ice them. The orchid and amaryllis plants on my windowsill smiled back at me. As I stood by the large window, soaking in the streaming sunlight, I realized I had tears in my eyes that were soon running down my cheeks. It had been a really rough car ride dropping the kids to school this morning. Two teen boys in the midst of figuring themselves out, and one struggling mom figuring out how best to be an anchor for them while she's flailing herself. Over the last few years, I've often stepped into my office teary-eyed, sat down at my desk, breathing in the quiet and letting myself be held by the feeling of warmth that seems to envelop me each morning when I'm the first one to arrive and have a few minutes to myself. Have you ever experienced a space where you feel completely yourself? When you take your deepest, fullest breaths and let go? I wonder when that happened for me. When did this building, this space become mine? When did I start so truly belonging here? How is it that I feel more myself here than anywhere else? I go back to the kitchen, find my favorite red cup with polka dots, fill it with water, and walk back to my desk. Taking a sip of water, I decide I really need some quiet time today, and my body can use a few moments of slowing down and recover from that car ride. So I send out my first email of the day, asking to reschedule a meeting which would require me to get out of the warm cocoon I was in. I settled back into my chair and delved into my sea of emails, quietly reading and answering them one by one. You know, it gives me great pleasure when my inbox is below 20 emails and I can't see the vertical scroll bar anymore. Maybe some of you know what I mean. Suddenly the phone rings and I notice a frown on my forehead. I'm not happy to be interrupted with my email catch-up, but I take a deep breath, let go, and answer. A gentle voice on the other end asks me if we have a spot available in our safe parking program. We have a brief conversation and he fills me in that he's currently living in his car with his wife and their 4 kids and looking for a safe place to park. I give him all the details and he lets me know he might come over later to take a look. Before he hangs up, he gently says, "God bless you," and I tear up again. I lean back on my chair and reflect on my phone conversation. My good friend imposter syndrome pays me a brief visit, lets me know I don't really know what I'm doing. I should have said more. I should have been more helpful. I have had this inner conversation with this friend multiple times over the last 2 years when I first started working with our safe parking program. Have you ever had imposter syndrome visit you? I wonder what's your conversation like. My stream of thoughts is interrupted as I hear someone say hello. I walk over to the front office and see someone standing there looking at me. I can sense a smile on the mask-covered face. The eyes are familiar, but I can't quite place her. "Hey, I'm your friend Anne. We've met each other on Zoom," she reminds me. And I immediately remember all the times we've interacted online during our Thursdays at 10 meetings. Anne tells me she was supposed to come in for a building tour with one of my colleagues, but probably got her dates mixed up. Well, I know what I need to do next. A perfect day for me to be the one giving Anne the tour, just like I gave Beth. um, After showing Anne around the office, we walked out into the main floor and I started off with the story of U Heights. Built in 1902 as a school, this building has gone through many, many transitions. I tell Anne my favorite story of all about how in 1988, when the building was going to be demolished due to low school enrollment, the community made a human chain around the building, standing hand in hand in a circle and chanting, "Be cool, save our school." And save they did. Over the next few years, the nonprofit University Heights Center was created. And December 8th, 2023 will be the 121st birthday of U Heights. Anne asks me what brought me to U Heights, and I tell her about my kids being at school there. I walk her through the school hallway and show her the elementary and middle school classrooms that they went to. She wants to know more. She's a storyteller herself. She wants to know more about my story. She asks me more questions, and in answering them, I go back in time. As I mentioned earlier, what first brought me to U Heights was a tour of an elementary school for my older son. When I had first walked in, I noticed a lot of movement in the hallways, lots of confusion, adults and kids doing their own things. It was chaos. I wasn't so sure it was going to be the right place for us. My husband, though, was sure and convinced me that we were in the perfect place for our son. Looking back, I'm so thankful that he completed an admission application right away. And over the years, I discovered the sweet order that lay underneath all that chaos. But that summer, I spent my days being nervous and afraid whether we had made the right decision. It was our first step into non-traditional education, and friends and family had lots of questions about our decision. Within the very first couple days of our son joining his kindergarten classroom, though, I didn't remember that I had ever doubted that choice. My breathing was deeper and fuller, and I felt freer than I had in a really long time. My family was no longer alone. My son found lots of love and attention in those hallways. We saw him smile and grow and learn. Along with him, the school community welcomed me as well, and I made some of my best friends there who remain my support system to this day. As I shared my story with Anne, we kept walking and talking about the different parts of this old building. The worn out stairs where we went up and down to the auditorium where my boys rehearsed for the first time on creaky floors, moving from shy and quiet little boys on stage to leading actors by the time they graduated. The hallways where some of us parents ran a coffee cart every Thursday to raise funds for the school. Watching the kids and teachers eagerly write down their orders and then watching their big smiles when we deliver coffee and hot chocolate to their classrooms is still one of my favorite memories. I lost count of how much time I spent in school over the years. Being a volunteer there gave me community and made me feel like part of a family that I didn't even know had been waiting for me. Anne takes a deep breath with me, and I can see her gentle eyes well up. I snap out of the past and move to the present. I start telling her about the artwork on the walls, the Artist Collective, the Theatre Alliance, all the fun things that happen at U Heights. We pause at one of the big windows on the top floor where you get the most amazing view of the outside world of U Heights, and I tell her about our collaboration with the farmers market and summer festivals. As we keep talking and walking back to the first floor, Anne wants to know when I became a part of the U Heights staff. How did that happen? Another story, another trip into the past. I recall viscerally the feeling of confusion and uncertainty when I started looking for a full-time job. After leaving my job in technology, where I was for 13 years, I had worked from home for myself with a self-publishing business and then cooking classes. And then when it felt like the right time to start working full time, I started applying for all these jobs. And it took me by complete surprise to see how being a stay-at-home mom, working with small businesses, seemed to have almost no significance on my resume. And potential employers kept questioning my working gap. I was disappointed and wondered what to do next when a friend of mine told me about a job posting right here at U Heights. It was for an associate director position. Guess who visited me right away? Imposter syndrome, of course. What do I know about nonprofits? Have I ever worked in a community center? Why would anyone hire me? Why would I even bother to apply? And yet, with all the bubbling questions, something made me reach out to the executive director and ask her, would she be up for a chai chat, chatting with me over a cup of chai at my house? I don't know where I found that confidence to ask an almost complete stranger at that time. I'm so glad I did. She agreed to come over and we had the best conversation, an immediate connection, and I knew right away I would love to work with her. She told me they were looking for a more experienced person for sure for the associate director position, so I wouldn't be a good fit, but they would be soon opening an outreach and events coordinator position for which she thought I should apply, and I did. Soon enough, I was sitting along with my good friend imposter syndrome at the interview table with the U Heights staff right across the new associate director who'd be my boss. My friend was speaking out really loud. Why are you here? What are you doing? You have no experience for this job. This is going to be such a flop show. Doing everything I could to silence and ignore that booming voice, I kept pausing, breathing, and letting go, and bringing myself back to the table, answering questions, sharing thoughts. The next 2 days, I waited patiently to hear back, and a new friend, second guesser, joined imposter syndrome. Do you even want this job? You do know that folks in the nonprofit sector make a lot less than IT, don't you? What if you do get the job? Will you really take it? Don't you think you should keep trying for software engineering? Isn't that what you should really do? Back and forth, they talked with each other while I listened to their conversation and kept trying to stay still, breathe, and let go. When I finally got the call that I had got the job, their voices were the loudest. They even won for a little bit and held me back from accepting the job. But in the end, I did. I said yes. I had come to peace with my kids joining a non-traditional school, and I came to accept my non-traditional career path in less than a week. I had the best managers and co-workers I could ask for, who supported and encouraged me, and I got to practice and play and learn to trust my instinct. Over the years, I've had many firsts in this space. First job as a event planner, first job as a community connector, first job as a supervisor with employees reporting to me, first time working with unhoused folk. And some rough and challenging first too. First time having to let someone go, first time having to be in an uncomfortable space and holding it together while feeling completely out of my comfort zone, etc. Through all this time, my old friends, imposter syndrome and second guesser, continued to hang around, but their visits have gotten less frequent and their voices are less loud. Phew, that was one long reflection, wasn't it? Luckily for Anne, she got the much more condensed summary version. Our tour ended and we gave each other a warm hug and said goodbye. Next on my agenda for the day, an online meeting with community fridge members, followed by an impromptu meeting with Theatre Alliance Group, then an outdoor meeting with the Jazz Night Festival for outdoor concerts, and then another impromptu meeting with Safe Lot team members. Before I knew it, my day was over and it was time for me to leave to pick up the boys from school. Oh gosh, I forgot to tell you, they are now in a new school, a community school in the International District, where guess what? That school also happened to start right here at U Heights in 1995 in one of the rooms, and then eventually they got bigger and moved out into the ID. As I was driving to pick up the boys from school, I think about the day, how I'm back on I-5, driving in an opposite direction and feeling in an opposite space than when I was in the morning. I'm speeding down I-5. I'm late as usual when it suddenly strikes me. I know the story I want to write about to share with you all. It's going to be about U Heights. I had been struggling for a while to decide what story to share, and it became clear to me on that drive that this is what I would write. I hope it was the right decision, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your listening and attention.